been filled with people trying to sell their gain, their gold or silver, and they're getting run around. So just about 4 or 5 years ago, I had a friend I've been buying about several $100,000 of gold and silver from him. And when I tried to sell it to him, he gave me one of the worst prices I've ever seen. And I stopped doing business with him. And he's a local guy here, but I just didn't understand the business. And I wrote it off to that. So I usually don't sell. I buy forever and hold. So Andy is in the business of precious metals, coins, and things like this. Andy, welcome to the Rich Dad Radio Show, and I trust you can shed some light upon your business about when you sell and when you buy back. Okay?
Absolutely. It's good to be back, Robert. Nice to see you. I'd be happy to be as transparent as I can.
Good. So, yes, if I buy a pair of shoes for $100 and I wear it for a year, I can't expect to get $100 back. But if I buy $100 worth of silver and the price of silver goes up, I expect to get more money back. That's the nature of this business. So how does it work from your point? You obviously like it when people buy from you. But what happens when somebody comes in to sell their silver or gold to you?
So most of my career, which is 35 years now, almost 36 years, Robert, whatever product you would be selling, you would receive premium, a excess premium above the spot price, above the melt value. Whatever the product was, some products would have a higher premium than others, but there was always a premium. We Silver Eagles as an example, and I can show you what you're really getting at here using Silver Eagles. So let's just pretend that you called me November 2019 and said, I'd like to buy a mint box of Silver Eagles, 500, 1 ounce, brand new United States Silver Eagles. Sure. You say, Andy, what will you sell it to me for? And if I should need to sell it back, what will you buy it for? I would have said to you something like this. Now, this would have been the same answer I would have given you for pretty darn well near 30 plus years. And I would have said, sure, Robert, I will sell it to you for $3.29 over the price of silver. I'll buy it back from you for $2.79 over the price of silver. That spread, $2.79 to $3.29, 60 cents or so, would have been our commission per coin. So $300 on a mint box. That would have been for almost my entire career. That would have been standard. And you say, okay, I'll do that. In fact, I want to get $100,000 for it. Sure. This is November 2019. You call me back 6 months later, March, April, May 2020, the pandemic had hit. Andy, the pandemic really affected my business. I need to sell those mint boxes. You told me that you would pay me $2.79 over. Is that still good? I'd say, no, it's not, but how about $11 over? Because the demand was so high for the price of silver, and for silver American Eagles, that in 6 months the premium went from $2.79 over bid price to over $11 over the price of silver bid price, where it stood for most of the last, or 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. And then things changed. They changed in a very substantive way. And that's going to get us to where we are now. So at least where we were and where we were before that, you always would receive a premium above spot, but a small one. Then came the pandemic. The premiums went much higher. But let's discuss, before I get to where we are today, how those premiums are derived. Now, there's about 5 or 6 massive primary distributors. These are the distributors that work directly with the mints and the refineries globally. These are the companies that some of them are publicly traded. They spend billions with a B of dollars buying and selling precious metals every year from the global mints, South Africa, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and the United States, and Austria. The 6 primary mints, and their job is to provide liquidity to the market, to be a market maker. So let's go back to pandemic. These primary distributors who have agreements with, let's say, the United States Mint, they take everything the Mint will give them because there's so much demand. The Mint says we're out of product. That's it, no more product. These primary distributors then become the market makers moving forward. They are the ones that set the premiums either to the upside or to the downside. There's so much demand in 2020, 2021 that they say, we'll pay anyone that wants to send us their Silver Eagles $11 over the price of silver, but we're selling them at 12 or 13 or 14 over. Now that spread, which was much bigger than normal, was big because you can't hedge the spread or the premium. You can only hedge the metal. So anyways, first and foremost, your guy in Arizona really is not the one who sets the premium. It's whoever he's going to sell it to, the big primary distributors. They're the ones who set the premium. What's interesting about right now, maybe the most interesting thing about the environment we find ourselves in right now, premiums are so low, is that really starting in 2024, we had the rise of NVIDIA, the accentuation of the Mag 7, the huge demand for cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, you've talked about that for a long time. And so the American public did this 180 during the pandemic and the banking crisis from risk off to risk on. And we saw a lot of selling and non-participation in the metals market. The premium went down. But here's where it gets really interesting. Where we are right now is a very unique situation because you still have the American public who has yet to really take your advice, Robert. They're beginning to. They're waking up. But this is simultaneously happening when the COMEX market is experiencing the largest deliveries that they've ever had in the history of the market. In fact, the May delivery contract for COMEX, where the prices are set globally, delivered the largest amount of gold and silver in the history of the COMEX ever. The biggest money up here, they're standing for delivery. They're the ones pushing the price higher. The public has a very tiny, if any, allocation to precious metals. In fact, Rick Rule says 0.5% across the entire United States, from Joe and Jane six-pack to the Harvard Endowment Fund in terms of allocation to metals. So what that means is there's more physical metal available on the street than the dealers have the ability to sell. And so as more people come in, the bid prices are getting lower and lower and lower. At the same time, the people at the top are draining the world's exchanges. It's just a matter of time. So anyways, all I'm trying to simply say is this. Until 2020, premiums were almost consistent forever. You pay a few percent over spot when you buy, you get a couple percent less, but still over the price of spot when you sell. Since 2020, everything's gone crazy, whether it be premiums that are higher than anything I've ever seen in my career, to where we are right now. And in defense of this gentleman, I will say industry-wide, the premiums are lower than I've ever seen, ever, in my career. And it's not us, it's the people one step above us, the primary distributors, that are the market makers. That's really as honest of an answer as I can give you, is that when I take in $1 million worth of gold and silver, if I can sell it to my clients, great. But if I'm a coin shop in Arizona, I may not have that ability, and I may not have that liquidity. So I have to turn around and sell it to a company like me or a company above me, the primary distributor, and the bid prices are going to be lower because there's so much excess supply built up because the public has been chasing profit instead of realizing what the biggest money in the world is doing, standing for physical delivery. And it's a cycle, and we're at the bottom end of the cycle now. I would expect to see premiums move much higher industry-wide as there's more awakening in the American public who finally start to say, you know, Robert Kiyosaki was right a long time ago. I should have been buying silver and gold. And when that happens, just like that, the premiums will flip. So in his defense, it's probably not him as much as it is the players above him who are bidding for the product he will return because he can't hold all that product, whether it be because he can't hedge it or because he doesn't have the checkbook to pay it, leave it sitting on his shelf That's
So
the real
this,
big answer.
so this is my question. How much power or price setting power does a average little coin dealer have? Because what happened was when I sold this stuff, it was my wife who caught it. She called another friend out of Austin, Texas, um, and he says, "No, you got screwed." So
Right.
that's what fired us off, and I stopped doing business with them. But that's what I was asking you: how much does that independent dealer have when they see you walk in the door and you got green boxes of silver, or yellow boxes of gold? Do
In
they see
most
you?
cases, it's like going into a movie theater to buy a box of candy and some popcorn. They got you. Most people, Robert, lack the sophistication that you have. Now, on your end, it was trust of someone you've worked with for a long time. Sending it in to a dealer like me or your friend in Austin, who I know you're talking about, both good companies, takes a more effort. You have to box it up and have to ship it by FedEx and go through all that nonsense. But rather, you throw it in the back of your car and go see your buddy down the street. That convenience is typically offset by less competitive pricing. In general, now I don't want to say all of them, but in general, coin shops do not have the ability that a company like mine does, or the gentleman that you're speaking of in Austin does, because they're long established companies that are doing millions and millions and millions of dollars of business a month and have the wherewithal to be able to write you a check for that and to even be able to inventory it after that fact because they can hedge the exposure. Whereas a local coin shop typically doesn't have that luxury, whether it be end of checkbook. I'll give you another example. There are a lot of people in those little coin shops that will, a guy like you, not you, but a guy like you will walk in and say, I need to sell this. And they'll say, okay, 1 second. And they'll go into the back room and they'll call me and they'll say, Andy, I have a guy in my front of my store right now that wants to sell $500,000 in gold. I can't really take that responsibility. Can I lock it in and immediately sell it to you? Sure, go ahead and do it. Bang, he'll do that. They don't have the liquidity. It all boils down to liquidity on that local level, Robert, and that's probably the biggest issue. So not as much as you would think.
Okay, and we come back, but we're going more into it about. Like I said, it was my wife who caught it, and it was really sad because I bought a lot from this guy, and I'm still friends with him. I know this, but he wondered what happened to the business. So that's why I'm asking you today. Is I guess it comes down to, this is my question that we can answer when we come back. Does it depend upon an individual, that's a little guy like me, finding a person like you who I just do business with? When we come back, we'll be talking more to Andy Scheckman, Miles Franklin. He's been in the coin business forever. I love his picture behind of him is nothing but the history of gold and silver and real money. Or as J.P. Morgan says, gold is money, everything else is credit. And so we come back again. It's like anything else in life. Who do you do business with? We'll be right back.
The U.S. dollar is dying. Most Americans are asleep. In 2025 alone, 11 countries have already dumped the dollar for trade. And China, they're not just talking. They're laying fiber optic cables under the Pacific to launch a digital currency system the world can use to cut America out. This is how empires fall, not overnight, but piece by piece. While average people sit on the couch watching the stock market and telling themselves it's going to be okay. It's not okay. We're buried under 36 trillion in debt. Moody's just slapped us with a credit downgrade. Inflation's still devouring your savings, and your 401k is just hanging by a thread in a rigged system. I've been saying this for years. Don't rely on job security. Don't trust Wall Street. Don't wait for permission. Think like an entrepreneur. Own real assets. Yes, I like gold. I own gold. But right now, silver is the play. Silver demand is exploding. Solar, EVs, military tech, water systems, it's everywhere. But supply drying up. And silver is still around $43 an ounce. I believe silver could hit $70 in 2025, maybe more. And if you want to wait around for CNBC to tell you that it's a good time to buy, it'll be too late. So here's what to do. Text silver to 24999. You'll get my 2025 Rich Dad's Guide to Silver for free. It breaks it all down. What's driving silver, why it's still cheap, and how to buy it smart before the next spike. Text silver to 24999 to claim your free guide right now.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, our longtime friend Andy Scheckman. As some of you know, I've been a gold and silver bug since a long time ago, since Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. I bought my first Krugerrand, South African Krugerrand in Hong Kong, and I paid $50 for it, and I still have it today. And today it's worth about $3,500. So did the Krugerrand grow in size, and did the dollar go down in purchasing power? I'll let you answer that question. But for those who follow my work, I say I don't save dollars, I save gold, silver, and Bitcoin because I don't want to lose money. And the purpose of money, according to my teacher, Buckminster Fuller, is the purpose of money was to steal your wealth. Fiat fake money. They steal your wealth via taxation and inflation. And so with Andy Scheckman as a friend, somebody I trust dearly. So Andy, we'll just say it's as simple as that. You have to find that dealer, coin dealer, that you have rapport with, trust, and they have a good track record.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't want to say that the local shops shouldn't make relationships with them. You should, and they have an important role.
Right.
Not everything is easy to send off, and sometimes you're in need of something a little bit more immediate. But yes, I mean, in an industry such as ours, Robert, this gold coin is the same whether you buy it from me, your friend in Austin, or the